Brandon Sadler is a new person in my life. I think he's a pretty amazing person. Right out the gate, he really exudes a lot of energy that's very still, very calm, very centered. He's an illustrator and a graffiti artist that is also doing murals around town. And he's doing many larger projects. Probably one of the ones that you guys know about is the mural that was shown in the Black Panther film. So that's super dope. And I believe that SCAD, he's a fellow SCAD B. So buzz all the way through that. I wish that we had like a buzz call kind of thing. But he's a fellow scatty, so it's super cool to like hear other successful artists around town thriving in their medium. So Brandon, if you wouldn't mind, I would love for you to take it away and just tell us about what it is that you do.
Oh yeah, that's the gist of it. A lot of people know me, through the murals, and I've done quite a bit of work with the Belt Line, Black Panther, as you mentioned, and in addition to that, I'm also a woodworker, and I make furniture from time to time, and it's mostly tea related and things that kind of go along with that lifestyle. And I'm also a purveyor of tea, so in my off time I do like a tea room called the Jade Forest Tea Room, and now since that's been kind of on hiatus because of COVID, I've been finding ways to make products and things like that that can reach people without them having to come physically to the space. It's like I do a lot of Chinese teas, some Japanese, but predominantly Chinese teas, and just trying to share the information that I've gotten from other people who have shared their knowledge, and just try to bring people to the space and let them figure out what to do with it after that. It's just a kind of a way for me to expand my practice and pass the knowledge forward.
So tell me like how that translates over. I know that you've shared with me how you have come from graffiti. And I remember you explained to me like, this is English. Like what you're looking at in my artwork is not me trying to own Chinese or Japanese culture. It's my own rendition. So it sounds like the tea practice carried you over into exploring the culture deeper, and then you taking your own roots and merging it with another culture to create the murals and the work and the language that you do today. Tell us about that.
So just for like full transparency and to kind of like lift the veil a little bit, with anything that you're inspired by, at least for me, there's a period of time where it's like emulating, where you're like directly looking at something and trying to recreate what you appreciate about it. And so I went through a period of time like that where I was trying to draw a particular way or just reflect these things that I was inspired by. And then I moved to Korea to do some English teaching out there. And, it's like a whole period of a year that I was just observing and experiencing. And in that time, what once was like me basically copying aesthetics that I appreciated kind of turned into like where I could identify myself within these things I was inspired by. And one of those things was my background in, as a graffiti writer, like being able to manipulate text and incorporate illustration and all that is pretty prevalent in Eastern art forms, and calligraphy and specifically is like, when I look at calligraphy, it's how to channel your identity and your energy into a mark through the written language, and it's the exact same thing when you catch a tag or something along those lines. And so I just kind of, where I was once designing English text to still read directly like English but give it my own identity, that turned into me now designing English text to look like Chinese, Japanese, or Korean.
I love that concept. Like, let's talk about new consciousness. So that can even start just from what you were jumping off on about making your own personal transition over there and saying like, okay, well, what do I do with this new free time? Like, what was that like? Because I think how many times we're all like, everyone that's in the room, shout outs to the other individuals popping in here, Noelle, Wanda, Lauren, hey girl, Dimitri and Sophia. I think that we're all kind of in that age bracket where it's like, okay, we've done this. What's next? So like, what
Right.
did you do to kind of reestablish your day to day, your timeline, like how to sit with the soberness?
Again, a complex answer, but the short of it is, it wasn't as like streamlined as like, oh, I'm sober now, so I'm gonna do this. It was more like I started replacing one addiction with another, and maybe they were more healthy, but it was just kind of replacing instead of resolving. And I think also, like, which is a pretty common thing, is that the loved ones that you have around you, you kind of lean on them, and create a maybe not so healthy environment for those relationships. Yeah, and so like the thing that really helped me to become aware of, I guess, this like placeholding that I was doing with new things was tea, right? And so one of the things that I'm really big on is like YouTube University, I guess they call it, and I scroll YouTube for all kinds of shit, and one of the things that I was looking at was Chinese painting techniques. In the queue, it brought up tea ceremony, and I have already seen that at the time that it came up, and I was aware of it, aesthetically. I guess in the time that I was mentally, it struck a chord, and I kind of just went down the rabbit hole. And there's not only just centuries old information out there about tea, but there's a whole culture on the internet who is sharing all kinds of information and resources. And I just kind of dove in, and it gave me a space to create like a centered environment where it wasn't replacing and it wasn't distracting or numbing. It was just it was allowing me to reinvestigate what was causing some of the turbulence in my life and how I could alleviate it.
For sure. Well, before you change gears, I want to actually dive into the Black Panther project and what illustrations the illustration that you did for that, because it wasn't a Asian influenced type of style. It was something that was specific to a Black culture and creating this whole new continent that was fantasy and sci-fi and action. And I'm just curious about, like, if you can describe the work that you did on Black Panther and how you found inspiration for that and how you were able to collaborate with that huge project with Marvel and all the amazing people that did that. If you can kind of maybe describe what your contribution to the Black Panther project.
Yeah, Hannah Beekler, the lead set designer, she contacted me to do Shuri's laboratory, T'Challa's sister. She's a warrior and a scientist. And there was a tower that was in the center of her laboratory. So we wanted that to be, have a facade, like a painted facade to it, something that looked like she did it. So it needed to be, have some energy to it. It looked kind of, edgy but still kind of playful and tie into like her African heritage, while also bringing in some of like the contemporary sides of things. She's a high level scientist. And so some of the inspirations were masks from different regions in Africa, and then Nigerian fabrics from like wax print fabrics. And I had already kind of used some of these like elements in my work with Afropunk Music Festival. Mm-hmm. I did some posters and some murals for them, and anyway, so I just bridged the two and then brought some graffiti sensibilities to the mix, and that ended up being the set.
So was it like a roll off the cusp kind of thing for you? Like, did it feel natural for you to dive into like the African aesthetic versus the Asian aesthetic, or did it take you a couple renditions? Because earlier you mentioned like the first iteration might not be the best. Like, how much time did you spend having to develop this design?
Oh, well, first off, let me just say that like I think my background as a person allows me to be able to kind of flow in and out of cultures and find something to relate to. So like I'm black and white, and because of that, like you get labeled with this like ambiguity, which kind of puts you in a cliche category of being all and nothing at the same time, you know. And so elements of African mythology and lore and history and things from indigenous cultures and even, you know, some European mythologies were swimming around in my, you know, wheelhouse of how to think and create. So like stepping into this lane really wasn't that difficult. It was more so like thinking like how I could make it look like it wasn't made by a professional artist kind of thing. Because it had to look like it was from a teenager. And we went through like several different iterations where like the first one was like way too mature, and then it got way too dumbed down and playful, and then we landed on what we landed on.
So is this the largest project to date that you've worked on, or what are your thoughts as far as like this compared to gallery work, compared to being expressive on the Beltline?
It's the most expansive project. It's not the largest at all, but it's the most expansive. I mean, from that project, I've had many repeat jobs along the lines of that film, done many different things with Disney and doing some more stuff when the next movie comes out. And I think that it really propelled, I guess, the reach of the work, which I really appreciated. And I like anything where an idea can transform and evolve and it doesn't stay exactly how it was intended to be.